Good evening. The Design Review Board 2 public meeting of January 15, 2009 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to leave the meeting room, if you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker's cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a project must completely fill out one of these postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current DRB agendas are available by calling our DRB hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and DRB reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within either 7 or 15 calendar days of the DRB decision date, depending on the application. The case planner will announce the length of the appeal period with each case. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. Roll call. Mr. Carter? Absent. Ms. Friedman?
Here.
Mr. Garagos?
Here.
Mr. Zarifian? Absent. And Mr. Malikian?
Here.
Great. Report regarding the posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on December 4th, 2008. Oral communications. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on an item that is not a part of the agenda?
We don't have any cards.
No cards. Okay. Review calendar. Actually, we do have 2 announcements. 2 Design Review Board cases are being, with your assistance, will be continued to February 12th of this year. Those 2 cases are 2 PDR 2008-072-A and 2 PDR 2008-073-A. And they're at 3522 through 3544 Foothill Boulevard. Can we have a motion continuing those items to the February 12th meeting?
So moved.
Great.
A second.
Great. Roll call. Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Mr. Garagos?
Yes.
Mr. Malik?
Yes.
Thank you. We're on to the regular calendar.
Okay. Well, Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome. So we're going to start in our only project, 2 PDR 2008-067-A.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This next item before you is located at 727 East Maple Street. It was reviewed on November 15th of 2007, and it was returned for redesign because through our new process now, we use new case numbers, and that's why it doesn't have the old case number, but it's the same project. So in case you're wondering, the project entails the remodel and addition of 1,363 square foot 2-story addition located towards the rear of the existing 800 square foot 1-story single family house, which currently has a detached garage, and it's located on a 5,642 square foot lot. The total floor area, including the addition, will be 2,163, and the existing garage will be demolished, but they are proposing a new 441 square foot detached garage at the rear. And there are some existing, like for example, storage that's going to be removed in a covered patio. So some existing structures that will be removed as part of the scope of work. The project is located in the multifamily zone. And for reference, I will go over some of the items in the report that were previously noted, but if you'd like, I'll just go over them before I go into the previous motion that the board had and the record of decision. Would you like me to go over
Please.
some of the items in the report? As it relates to, for example, site planning, the property is located on a flat terrain, and the lot is rectangular in shape. Comments related to site planning, basically that the minor changes are taking place. However, for the most part, the existing site plan conditions will remain. The project is consistent with the general neighborhood pattern. Regarding the design, just in summary, the proposed materials for the house enhance the overall design of the house and are compatible. That craftsman influences are still being preserved and are consistent with the existing character. Some of the items, for example, as it relates to the details on the house pertaining to that comment would be, for example, that they are proposing new white vinyl windows. They are maintaining the existing openings. They are maintaining the existing wood trim sills, and they will incorporate them throughout the fenestration. The existing wood windows at the front will also be replaced with white vinyl. The muntins on the windows are slightly different compared to the existing, and because some are missing, some ones are missing. However, the existing openings will be maintained. And staff had a comment related to white vinyl windows in general. Typically, white vinyl windows would not be recommended for this style. However, in this case, the windows would be appropriate because they will be recessed and include wood sills and trims. However, the existing wood windows at the front should not be replaced with vinyl, but rather staff recommends replacing them with wood or fiberglass wood window material. And per staff suggestion, the applicant is proposing double hung and casement windows, again with the exception of some slider windows at the bathroom. And double hung and casement windows are more appropriate for this type of design. Okay, now let me go to the previous board conditions of November 15th of 2007. The first comment or condition the board made was to submit an accurately scaled site plan and survey which properly shows the property line, requires interior setbacks in the existing driveway easement, properly situate or set back the garage in relation to the interior property lines. And the applicant has addressed this. The site plan is scaled accurately and a survey has been submitted. I've also pinned up the survey on the back panel for reference. Comment number 2 was to restudy some of the void spaces and its use, for example, underneath the interior staircase. Staff determined that addressing this condition would not result in a facade enhancement, but rather it would reflect a change in the floor plan. For that reason, this condition was not addressed, as it is outside the scope of work of the design review. Comment number 3 was to clearly and accurately label the existing and proposed addition. The revised plans clearly show the existing and proposed locations of the addition. And again, the location is at the rear of the existing house. The second floor addition would be above the first floor addition, which is also set back quite significantly from the front. The fourth comment was to verify the location of the AC unit and show it on the plans. Again, this information is identified on the site plan along the west side of the house. Comment number 5 is to indicate and label all new windows on the elevation drawing. This information is shown on the drawings, and again, I'm sure you've probably reviewed it in the packet as well. Comment number 6 was to draw the existing house accurately on the elevation drawings. The present conditions / details of the house must be consistent with the drawings. The elevation drawings show this information. Comment number 7 was to remove the roof antenna at the front and other visible accessory items or visible accessories on the roof. The applicant will address this condition during construction. A condition has been included to make sure that this is actually dealt with out in the field.
We have to when we make a motion, do we have to include that condition, or is it already in the
We've actually noted it in the recommendation / record of decision just to make sure. So when we go out in the field, we verify that these items have been addressed and they're not overlooked.
We don't have to include it in the motion, in other words.
Well, if it's
No,
part
it
of
would
your
be part of-
condition, you would.
You
Okay.
could part of the
Yeah,
motion.
you
Yeah.
can adjust
Okay.
and modify it any way you want.
Comment number 8 was to submit details on the gutters and downspouts. Gutters and downspouts are identified on the elevation drawings. And number 9 was to identify the location of the trash area. The trash area is proposed to be located along the west side of the house as shown on the site plan. And regarding the recommendation that staff has noted in the report, staff recommends that the board approve the proposed project because it is compatible with the overall neighborhood context. Staff also recommends the following to be considered. Number 1, as it relates to fenestration, replace the existing front wood windows with wood or fiberglass clad wood. Number 2 is to recess all windows. Number 3, maintain or replace existing wood sills/trims with the new wood material. And number 4, again, was to remove the antenna and other rooftop equipment prior to obtaining a building permit. And just some general comments regarding site planning, mass and scale, and building design and details. I've noted this already in my presentation. If you like, I can go over it again, or not necessary. Okay, then that concludes my presentation.
All right, we have 2 cards. Ruben Reynoso, would you like to speak, or you would like to speak? Rosanna?
And just for comment, the architect for the project had called me. She's not going to be here. I guess she's out of town, and so that's why the property owners are here
Okay.
speaking on behalf of the architect.
State your name and address.
Roseanne Reynoso, 727 East Maple Street. Good evening. We've been here for quite a while, a couple of years already. And I think the plans did change a lot. And I think it did get a nice facelift. And we talked to Milka a lot, and we dealt with, we got your advice, and we went to the architect from the city, and she helped us out a lot. And man, I want to see this dream come true. I really want to see this. Like my mother-in-law says, she's 86 years old. Am I ever going to see this? I want to see it before I die, Roseanne. And I said, oh, well, it takes time, you know. So I just hope, we did everything that you guys asked for. And the antenna is off. We took the antenna off a couple of weeks ago. And I hope you guys like the plan. I sure do.
Have any questions?
I have one question. Did you give any consideration to restoring those windows, since the staff feels that you should replace them? with
Since
wood?
we bought the house, they never worked. When the windows are all sealed, they're cracked, they're broken, they have guess somebody threw something. So it's just,
Because it might be cheaper for you to restore them and buy new windows. But I don't know. I didn't look at them that closely, so.
yeah, I mean, they're
Okay, it's just a thought.
had their days.
I had some specific questions. I was hoping the architect was here. I don't know.
But, the windows, we found some that look just like the front, that has the same detail, everything,
Do you know if the
Because I do like the front,
You mean the vinyl windows?
yes.
Yeah, because they don't really look the same when they're actually installed.
Really?
With the fake divided lights on the inside,
Mhm.
it doesn't really give the same look. So I'm just nervous that if you went with that, if you like what you have now, you may not actually like them when they're in.
Well, I saw them in other houses, like 3 blocks down. They put those windows. So I went to look, and I said, well, they don't look bad. I just like them. But
Do you know if the window surround was going to be plaster or wood? The wood going around.
Wood.
The wood? It was going to be wood. Okay, because that wasn't clear on the drawing.
yeah, it's going to be wood.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Would you like to speak? Okay, all right, then, okay. Then I'll close the public session. Okay, anyone wants to start?
I'll start. I think in general, I wasn't here the first time it was reviewed, so unfortunately, there's comments I wish I had made then, but I wasn't here. So I think in general, I don't have a problem with the second floor. You're in a multifamily zone. I don't have any problem with that. My natural inclination is to try to bring the second floor a little bit closer up, but I'm not going to. I actually like the fact that you've changed the roof on the existing portion, because I think the gable facing towards the front gives the first floor a little more height, which I think helps to connect the two structures together massing-wise. So I think that's a positive. It is a little boxy, and I wonder if it was multifamily, if we'd even approve it with that little articulation. So I want to hear the board's comment, the rest of the board, their feeling about that there's not a lot of articulation to it, so we could talk about that. I think as the project might have evolved, it's kind of in a mid-stage. I think there's still some kind of Spanish-ish Mediterranean elements that are kind of hanging on and which should probably be jettisoned. Like the band around the bottom, between the floors, is you're trying to add some element because it is an unarticulated area at the back. But I do think it's kind of confusing in the style. You're trying to bring it to something more like a craftsman. I think it just confuses things. Also, the arches that you have on the back porch, again, are sort of a leftover from when you might have been thinking about doing Mediterranean or something. So it might be nicer if those were more like how you're treating the front columns, more like a wood painted element as opposed to a plastered element. So something to think about on that. I think also there's a couple small things like the front windows, which is funny, when I got the packet, I said, no, really those living room windows should really be casements, not single hungs. And then when I came and saw the house, the sides are casements, because when you do the marginal lights, it doesn't look right to have a single hung XOX. I think it looks kind of funny. So I'd probably recommend that those turn into an XOX with casement sides, more like what the existing is. I think the issue on the vinyl is a good one. I think it really comes down to the quality and the one you pick. I think sometimes you can do the applied grit on the outside with some of them, and it can be presentable and not too bad, but I think it's really specific to the manufacturer, whether it's done properly. The fiberglass tends to be better just because of the processing, the process of the construction of the window. You said that the surrounds were wood, which I think is a positive, and that would be helpful with the wood sills and stuff, so it wasn't clear for me on the plan. A couple other things in terms of how the posts are detailed on the front porch. It would be nice if there was a little bit more detail to that. I'm a little hesitant because sometimes something can be drawn well and still not executed properly. But when it's not drawn well, it's hard to see how it then would be executed well. So it tends to make a little bit more cautious when you see that it's not really drawn too interestingly. And I think that's about it. The other thing, just one other thing, Mocha, we had mentioned a couple months ago when we talked about windows. When the staff says recessed, in my mind, the recess is really more for a Spanish one where you want to do a bullnose back to the window. I don't know that you necessarily need a recessed when it's trying to be a craftsman, because the window could be more flush to the wall plane and then there's a plant on. So that's just a little thing that we talked about a while back. So anyway, that's about it. But I would want to hear your comments on the massing of it, so I guess we'll...
Mr. Malakian, do you remember when this project was here? It was 2 years ago. And I was hoping that you remembered
I don't remember that at all.
in the past, because I don't remember it either. And I was trying to figure out, when I was looking at the previous comments, whether these comments were the type of comments where we were asking for more information before we actually started to give comments. Sometimes we'll say...
Is that the case?
Yeah, the main issue the board had, if I recall it, there wasn't really major comments at all regarding the design. It just, more of it was that was the one on the left.
Because, sometimes we'll say, for instance, we don't feel comfortable really making comments yet because we need more information. Right. I'm trying to just read into this whether that was the case, because I'm just a little surprised. We didn't have more comments.
Well, for example, some of the comments that were made were by a previous board member that's no longer on the board, and he had specific concerns regarding accuracy as it relates to the site plan and, for example, the survey, what is actually out there.
Do you remember if because of that, we had asked them to go and do a more accurate kind of plan so that then we could actually have more of a sense
If
of what
I
was
recall, I
happening?
think that's what the intent was, to approve it, but there was not enough information.
Because that, in my mind, is different in terms of, that then, sometimes we'll say, meet this list of concerns, and then we'll pass your project. But if we just say, give us more information so that we then can decide, that's a different, I think, thing. And it's been 2 years, but there's not, there's changes, but not as though the entire mass has been restudied or anything like that. The roof lines changed, and certainly they raised the profile of the front, which I think is a really nice improvement. But I agree that it looks like, it's one of those additions that really looks like an addition, whereas we tend to try to make the additions look more as though they were organic to the house when it was first made. So I share your sense that there probably is a better way to put put that second floor addition onto this small house, but I'm not sure if that's, at this point, I'm comfortable with sending them back again. We're under the old guidelines with this, right? So they would actually be able to be returned one more time?
I'm not sure. I'll defer that question.
I believe so. They can.
Okay, I'm not saying we're going to, but at least it's good to know where we are in
Yeah,
the process.
but this is a totally new project with a new case number. So
I think the entry is much improved. I think the front of the house is nice. I have concerns about the window because I find those vinyl, the fake divided lights to the house, I think, next to this one that has those windows. And I think it's really a downgrade. Okay, so you agree. So as long as it's something that's high quality, and I'm very comfortable with the staff being able to determine that, whether it's wood or vinyl with the divided lights on the outside of the glass, or fiberglass, which is nice because you can paint it, a lot of those products. So if you want to change the color later, you'll be able to. That would be a condition for me to be sure that it's a higher quality window. Yes?
One of the things that we often struggle with on projects of this nature is whether or not vinyl is an appropriate window material, because we've heard from the board many times that there's a reluctance to approve vinyl because of the level of quality. When Milka and I were working together on this, we thought that, yes, this is a very simple project. The windows need to be of good quality, but perhaps with the wood surrounds, the vinyl is not inappropriate. So we sort of made those soft comments in the staff report and are looking to you for guidance as far as what are the materials that you would consider quality materials for the windows to be used for this particular project.
Well, quite honestly, when I went and I looked at the house again and looked at the plans, I thought to myself, this is a great upgrade to this house. It's going to be a big improvement to the house. And it's too bad that they're using vinyl windows on it, because that's the one place where it kind of falls. So I'll defer to the rest of you. If you feel comfortable that they can find a vinyl product where it won't look like a cheap vinyl window with a piece of wood around it, but that would maybe mean that the staff would have to actually see that product instead of just making that condition, because it could just be the same vinyl window that they have on the next door house, which really is, a detriment to that house.
We typically ask for cut sheets, particularly when we've been directed to have such a quality window. We don't just go with the written condition.
Alan, do you have any thoughts?
We're here to make sure that, our responsibility is to make sure that the design that we're approving, it's at a certain level that we are comfortable in saying that we've approved that project. It is unfortunate that it's taken you so long to get to this point, but you have to realize that this 2 years, this project should have been built already. And I'm not sure why it's taking this long. And there are certain things that I look at the plans that I'm questioning of the thought process that has gone into it to be able to give that quality that we expect from everyone. It's not just simply you as the homeowner and expect you to design. Everyone who comes in front of us, we would expect the same level of quality of work, including the materials that they pick, including the design level, and also the aesthetic that they produce. Some of the things that I see and start questioning the actual how it's gotten to this point, and as Mr. Garagos mentioned, their design decisions that have been made on the exterior facade that really doesn't make sense. You know, you got the wood siding, then you got the plastered arch, the back, and then you got this band, the trim that goes around them, which is the molding trim. And at certain level, I kind of like this smooth box element where these were fairly, how would I say, it's a cheap way of getting away with adding details. I would have preferred to have this smooth, you know, a steel trowel finish, and then maybe the windows were recessed and the bullnosed, and getting into that level of quality of work. You know, I'm looking at this. You know, you ended up having these spaces, and I'm not here to question the floor plan, but because the floor plan, the way it's laid out, and then because it's creating this boxiness on the exterior, so I'm starting to kind of look at what is happening on the inside. So that's why I'm going to give you some suggestions, and maybe that would help you kind of understand where I'm coming from. You have almost a 12-foot wide master bath, whereas the 12-foot wide bath, it's taken away from your play area room, but you only have, by the time you're done, you only have a 9-foot by, you know, maybe a 6 by 9 area for the playroom, and then you've created this little area that doesn't do anything for you. So maybe that itself is good enough for you to be able to push this in and somehow play around with the exterior facade to create some of these recessed areas or you know, just the position of the elevation, you know, pushing in and out. But that's just one general comment. I'm not going to make my decision based on what you have on the floor plan. But I'm just noticing certain things that it just really doesn't make sense. And then when I bring it out to start looking at the exterior, you have these exposed ridge beams that, what are they? I mean, what is that for? You know, the overhang, you know, it just doesn't work with the architecture. And I agree. I think if we're going with the wood and the plaster and the wood columns, yes, I would agree. Maybe we just flatten it out, and I think that's what we commented on. And I think, and just because we marked just a specific location, we didn't really mean for you to concentrate your work just that specific location. It's just the general comments for the entire project. But you left this as is because we didn't really red mark that area. But when you look back, you've addressed this. It's taking you 2 years. Yeah, you've addressed this, which is absolutely right. You've addressed it. It took you 2 years to flatten this, but we got to go back for another 2 years to flatten this. 3 years. Oh, 3 years.
3 years ago.
Okay. You need to speak into the mic.
So, but my comment is, you know, when we say certain comments, you know, these details and elements there, we're not really talking about just that specific location. As your architect, if he was here, he should have realized what we were saying, kind of taken this and kind of understood. Well, I'm just talking to you. It's not open. I'll let you. We don't have any other projects. I'll let you come and speak. But in general, I think the project needs to be much simpler. I think just because you have a box doesn't really mean that it's a bad thing, but what you've done is you've taken a box and you've started attaching things to it to make it a little bit more interesting, which I think you were trying to realize that, you know, it's kind of a plain plain slate that we're dealing with. I think that there's definitely a place, and I'm sorry to do this. I think that definitely I do want you to build this thing, but I don't know if with the comments that we give, if your architect can do it and the staff, I'm sure staff can handle this, but I don't know if you want to bring this back or not. But things that are happening here that I'm not sure why this is happening and then this is straight. Why isn't this kind of centered? And if these are large wood plaster and this whole thing is covered, plastered columns, maybe you want to put these columns here and maybe bring out certain, corbels or something, like some details there that I think it really will work, or even bring some of these columns in here and maybe not that often, maybe use the windows as kind of centering these columns or something. I don't know. Just work the entire design all together. But in general, I think it's just taken way too long to get to this point without really having any substantial meat for me to be able to comment on. I think I'm still questioning certain things inside the house, and the same as I don't know why I was questioning, but I know, I think I saw this, and I said, okay, why is probably this is I'm thinking it's like you have this staircase and it's a closet and this is a void space, and probably my comment or I think Mr. Insel was here maybe.
You mean the comment regarding the void space?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was your comment.
That was my comment.
Yeah.
So I probably said, why is this void? Maybe that void space could have been pushed in. The staircase could have been kind of an element there with the glass or something that you could see the stairs coming up. And this could kind of work out something, where is it? Something in here that kind of make this work together. I don't mind this, but things like these I was questioning, and same thing I'm questioning places like this where it's affecting the exterior. So I'm not happy with it. I wasn't happy. I'm still not happy with the way that the solution has come out. It's a newer drawing. It's a more detailed drawing than what it was. Some of the windows have changed from what it was before, but it's just. I love the door. I love the front door.
Well, just in a general sense about the massing, though, does it need a push and pull on it or not? Is that? I would have said do more push and pull. I feel a little bit. I can after the fact now. So.
Well, here's the thing. Are we limited to the square footage? Are we maxed out?
No, not at all. This is multifamily
Well,
zone.
What happens if
Well, there's more space on that one side that could have it, but
They have,
this side, right?
yeah, but that already is. There's already a little bit going on that side. It's actually the driveway side.
Well, let me
already 9
ask you
foot, so they
this.
really can't do
Maybe I'm just coming up with some ideas there. Maybe that this is creating this asymmetrical space. Maybe this comes back, and over here, obviously, it's a huge space there. Maybe that this can be pushed in, and maybe a small little balcony is created in the back. I don't know, to kind of create this recessed area or something.
If we could just be a little bit more clear.
I'm not, it's not really, I'm talking. And if
Right,
it's
but
definite, then-
just so that if we're going to be working with the applicant
Oh, okay.
in some way or the other.
Well, I'm just thinking because you got, basically you got this.
Right, I guess what I'm wondering about in listening to the totality of your
I'm
comments.
just saying that, this is already, they were already created an asymmetrical layout. So the windows are on the side, you have this flat box there, and, they've already created this recessed area here. All I'm saying is maybe that this can be mimicked on this side, and, either that or leaving it here, maybe carrying some columns here, maybe this is pushed in maybe a couple of feet and create a little balcony here at this end or something to kind of create some interest there. I mean, you got all these multi-family homes, like Mr. Garrigo said, that you got all these things happening all around it, and some of these homes around it has some character there. So by creating a box-like structure is what I'm concerned about, and I don't mind I like the way that they dealt with this. I think this is nice. I think the way that they pulled that out, I think creating a lower roof here, I think it's creating an interesting element. But I really am questioning, what is this wood siding for? I mean, what is that really doing?
Okay, so if we can understand just a little bit more clearly the intent, we hear very clearly that there's a concern with the way the rear colonnade has been designed, and perhaps that should be more symmetrical, more related to the windows behind.
I think it's definitely there's room to work out. I'm not sure why this was done, why it's not straight, why is this pushed in, why is this being used as a plaster column, whereas in the front is wood column.
Okay, those are all very good questions.
So why are these arches in, whereas in the front it's you know.
Board Member Malikian, those weren't conditions, but I believe that was one of the comments one of the previous board members had in general when they were making comments regarding the design. And that's why the architect actually incorporated this siding, because that was one of the comments that was made, although it was not made as part of the motion. And those board members are not present today because they're no longer on the board.
It's not a bad thing to use, but with the appropriate detail that they should follow through. It's not just adding the siding right at the top here and then just leaving everything else.
Yeah, I think that siding's nice, especially when it's such a big building that's not unarticulated. It's nice.
So
It's just not a detail.
the other thing that we heard that sounded that we want to be a little more clear on is you mentioned that you would like to see the house be more simple, but at the same time we've heard comments that there should be elements that provide more interest and more articulation.
We're trying to design the house.
Well, if we understand the intent, the why and the what, we can help them with how they do it.
I think my personal issue with the project is it's a combination of a lot of different architecture. I think if it's consistent all throughout, I think then I would be comfortable saying, okay, at least it has certain details. There's the back area. There's these elements there. I really don't like the wood trim around it. I really, if it's just solid plaster box that the direction they're going,
The wood rail at the floor line.
I would push the windows in, have better quality windows, and then having the plaster going, and then go into that level of detail, go into true Mediterranean look. Whereas, these trims versus these columns versus, there's just a lot of things happening that I don't know where to start. And by the time we're done with it, we're going to be redesigning the whole thing, and I don't want to sit here and design it.
Of course, and
I like the wood front door, so maybe that could be their starting point for them to design the rest of the stuff.
I think the comment
My question is, okay, so these rafter tails are coming. The ridge beam is coming out to support the roof, but what happens to these ends? This thing comes out, okay, sits at the end, so what about the just flapping up?
So you have a craftsman house that's there. So if you're going to, if this is a project looking for a style, it has craftsman bones already. It was a craftsman house. So it shouldn't be that difficult to add back some of the detailing and the character that it's lost over the years. And I think that's what it needs, maybe.
I'm comfortable letting you guys do it. If you guys want.
Okay, if we're happy to do that. More than happy to do that. We just want to have a clarity of.
I think
the only thing is that the staff is recommending this, so they're happy with this. So it seems like if we say let them work on it. This is what they came back with. So what are we asking them to do that's any different?
The direction,
Beginning of the year, the first project.
You haven't really been that nice to them. Have they been that nice to you?
let me just,
I'm just being honest.
Come on up. Well, sorry.
Well, come on up.
Nice to meet you.
He has. From day one, he has.
Good.
Because the last time we were here, the other guy didn't even want to see it. And he's the one that said, let's put it together. Let's do it. Anyway, I'm going to tell you.
Thank you.
You know those arches in front has the arch. So that's why I told my architect, do the back as the arch because the front has the arch.
They do have the arch.
Okay?
He has the same arch right here.
Yeah, as in the back. Yeah. So
Yeah, but
that's
that-
why I said do
this
the
is a
arch.
wood arch, though, back in the old days.
And the city said it was, the city architect said it was too much stucco. So she recommended the wood.
Oh.
No.
That would be
not
Stephanie.
wood.
That would be Stephanie.
Oh, it's been a while. So she recommended the wood and the wood up there for it.
Which is
you know.
fine. Just be consistent. That's
But
what
another
I'm
thing
saying.
too, under the stair, that's going to be
Storage now,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
fine. Now
closet slash.
before it was nothing. I mean, it was just a vacant space. I figure, just
No.
either push it in or use it. Now you're using it.
No,
I'm fine
that
with it.
was always that, but it
Oh,
was
okay.
never.
So it wasn't drawn properly. So
Yeah.
that's why he's not here.
No.
So that's why she's not here. So that's why she's not.
I,
Okay, we blame
we
it on.
fired him, so this
Oh,
is
no,
another
her.
one.
Okay.
I think the issue for me is why it's so
I'll
difficult.
get fired what I have to say
And
next,
the
but I'm
round,
not going to say. So.
the in front, the round things, it's going to be wood.
Right.
We're going to take the.
Do you like the wood or you don't like the wood?
I like the wood.
Then why do you have the plaster in the back, square columns in the back? It's-
Well, when you said it, I said to myself, yeah, that's right. We should have had the wood.
Okay. All right. So you're okay with
Yeah, I'm okay with the wood.
And admittedly,
And then-
that's something that I didn't catch and recommend. So thank you for
You're
catching
welcome.
that. That's a very good recommendation.
it? You're okay.
And another thing, when we came the last time, you said it was too open. So that's why we did double arch in the back.
You mean from that to?
Weren't enough columns, I guess.
Yeah, it was just one big one. So we added 3.
One big one.
That's the same number.
Same number.
Same number.
No, it was, this is,
That's the.
Well, back
is a
before.
It could have been me.
that's
I
a
wasn't.
fire-
I wasn't here that long
no,
ago.
I know that.
How many people did you guys fire in
Oh,
this project?
I mean, so that's why we put the 3 arches, because you said it was too open.
It's just.
I like the 3 arches. I don't have a problem with the 3 arches.
I know, but he doesn't.
But no, I'm okay with it.
I'm good with the wood.
See, it,
I just want to match,
you
like
guys
you
are
said
worried
the
about
last time.
this-
It has to match the front to the back.
You're missing
So-
the whole point for me.
I think that all Mr. Malakian's trying to say is that some of that attention to detail with the wood siding just would be better if it was carried out through more of the building as opposed to just being on the very front. I think, unless I'm mischaracterizing.
Can I just say one thing? Because I think this is what's bothering me. I finally came to a conclusion on it. Just like you said, if it's an unarticulated box, and I don't mean that in a pejorative sense, that is what the old Spanish houses were, and they'd have the bullnose windows, which I was just mentioning, and a plaster sill on them, and you could probably do that on this house with nice windows. And it would be very much like a traditional old-style Spanish house, which I think would probably be fine. That's one scenario. You could also do this as a craftsman. And the craftsmen's, a lot of those were boxy also, the very boxy buildings. The difference is they were all siding. And you might have a different siding on the top and bottom. So if you don't want to do siding, that's fine. But I'm saying in order to do that style, that massing, it's either going to be, in my mind, it's going to be Spanish if you're not going to change the massing, or it's all stucco and you do the proper Spanish details. Or you're going to put siding all over it so it really looks like a nice, strong craftsman. Or if you're going to do stucco and you're not going to do the Spanish, then you have to articulate it more, because you can do a Craftsman that's stucco with the detailing up in the gable, but when the massing is articulated, you have some cross dormers on the side, and there's a push out or bay windows or something going on. So those are 3 ways to go. But if you're not going to change the plan and you don't like siding, in my mind, you really ought to take it to just a very strong Spanish. I mean, that's because otherwise you're in the middle of different ideas. So.
See, when you say push in, we're going to lose space, so
Don't take it literal, push it in. Just take it as a general comment, not literally pushing in. There's a lot of different ways that you can articulate.
yeah,
what
because
is-
we do share driveway, so we have to watch,
Right.
Is that the setback 7.5 on the one side, or do they have more space than
we
that?
have more space now, because we had to go.
One of
1
the
foot
things
in.
that I've been always
What is it
saying
required
in
on
the
that side?
past 8
For the
years
driveway
or
side?
9 years
No, the
that
other
I've been
side.
sitting on
Required
the
on that
board,
side.
to any architect or anyone came,
I believe it's 6.
my suggestion
It's
to
7.5
them
as
was
well.
that the first thing you do is you have to
6.
understand and make a decision of what type of architecture you want to design your building to. If you don't know that in the beginning, then the whole thing is going to fall apart. For you to be able to tell from the day one, say, okay, I want to make this building look like a Craftsman building, or I want to make this building look like a Mediterranean. And once that happens, then you can research all the details, all the condition, and you start incorporating all of those in, and you end up getting a very beautiful house. In this particular case, you have certain details and conditions that you have existing, and you're trying to use that everywhere else. Well, certain places you're using as a plastered arches, where certain places using wood arches, they're using on the gable ends, you're using siding, which you would have on a more of a Craftsman or a ranch style home, whereas you have plastered, majority of the house is plastered, which you have more of a Mediterranean. Then you got those trims around, which it depends on how the detail is done.
But you asked for the trends. You said it was too simple, it was too.
Well, no, that's,
Well,
they asked for the, not, I think he's referring to the foam moldings, you see, the sort of
Yes,
concrete.
that-
That's a little different.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we can ignore that this is a Craftsman house. And no matter what you do to it, it's never going to be a Spanish house. You'd have to do a lot more work than they're planning on doing. And all you're going to end up with, right now you have a house that's been really abused over the years and stuccoed over.
You can sit down.
And what they first came in with was basically this, right? It's the house with stucco and the vinyl windows, and that's what we objected to. And I think what they're trying to go towards is this, which is what it probably had looked like at one point, where it had the wood
I don't
siding
think you
up
want to go
above.
towards Craftsman, do you? Well, why don't
Well,
you come back up?
It is a Craftsman.
But I don't know what they want to do. Let's guide them towards the direction.
It was our sense in working with their designer that they were trying to match bring the front back a little bit more to what it was, and then have a more simplified version of that behind it, because it was our understanding that it would be not so easy to get the addition to really be a true Craftsman with all the detailing that represents.
Ah,
Last time we were here, we were told,
Why don't you state your name, too?
my name is Ruben Reynoso, the owner. We were told, look around, look what we've already approved, and take some of that, and that's what we did. And some of the stuff we saw we didn't like. I mean, it was boxy. I mean, you look at this, and we'll take you down the street, and you'll see some real boxes.
Right.
And how they got away with that, we don't know. So it's pretty difficult. I mean, when we go down driving, we look at stuff, we see stuff we like, we incorporate it. We saw that, that we like that, and we incorporated it, stuff like that. And then we gave it to our architect, and they said, okay, my wife takes pictures of all that stuff. And she says, look, this is what the city approved, this is what they like.
necessarily, but
Well, and then now you're giving us, looks like, you're redesigning the house again. And our architect, I mean, I'm at the mercy of the architect. The architect is going to do what you say, and it's going to look at your comments and rebuild it differently. And we're going to come back and have the same problem. Because I really don't know. I mean, it's funny that he made the same comment the last time. He said, we're not building it for him. All we're doing is looking at it's proper, and they get it built properly. But it doesn't seem to be going that way. It seems like you guys want to build it for us. And in that case, I'm glad to give you the architecture, and you guys can do it, and hopefully that gets passed. But that's, we're at your mercy. If you guys say you want this, we're going to try to do it.
Our position is to review the design. And we're not here to design the building. We're not here to do anything else. All we're here is creating the project that is in front of us. And the stuff that we see are the issues that it's been around since 2007 that we saw.
Right, and I believe the comments should have brought that with our architect, and it didn't. So I'm back where we started. I mean, you had the plans, you looked at it and said, looks good, and then now you're tearing it apart. Okay, fine, that's your job. But I wish you would have tore it apart back.
Well, this is the second time since 2007, this is the first time we're looking at it.
Well, right? My thing is this. The city changed the planning thing because they said the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. Because we're working with city officials, her, yourself, and it's a shame that we do all this work in the background and you don't see it until now. Because basically, I feel, wasting your time, my time. I wish your comments would have been, too bad we can't bring this back and say, okay, now do you like it? Do you think it'll pass? Because we're just playing a guessing game here.
I think you're misunderstanding what we do. There's professionals that you hired to develop a design for this house. They should understand what good design is. This isn't some star chamber hocus pocus.
I understand that.
It's a very objective thing.
He got so frustrated he couldn't. He says, I don't know what the city wants. So we hired.
I'll just tell you, this doesn't appear like it's somebody who really took the time out, to be very honest with it. And I don't know either person that you had previously.
Well, I wish he was here.
Yeah. It isn't at a level where we could say, that's some capricious thing.
Right.
It's not really strong enough. So it's hard for us. We're just trying to give you direction to help you do something that's substandard. So we're trying to give you as much help as we can.
Yeah.
Short of designing.
Right.
And we appreciate it. But
you should hire somebody who can come in and do at least a presentable project, and then we can comment on it. That's the difficulty. You're presenting something that's not really coherent. So we're trying to help you get to that point.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I guess I would offer that we can direct the applicants to some of the resources we have that have a wide variety of styles, like the city published a book for design guidelines for buildings in historic areas. And not that this is a historic house, but that book has a really good collection of a whole bunch of photographs of a dozen different styles. So that might be, instead of just driving around and picking out, one element from here and one element from that house, you'll see houses that are very well put together in a style and lots of different samples to give you a good feel. So we can direct them to things like that.
And in addition, it seems like what we're hearing is that the concern is mainly with a level of inconsistency of design around the house, and you're looking for something that's consistent. What we're also hearing, particularly from Board Member Friedman, is that the original house is a craftsman house, and that may be the right direction to move in. So with that guidance, we believe that we can help the applicant achieve a consistent design that has craftsman influences. Now, it will be likely a more modern, or maybe more simple.
We're going to end up having some, something very, how would I say it, than getting myself in trouble. But I think their project is a very simple box project. I think it should just be a simple box project. Now, if they want to use certain craftsman details and stuff within that box, I'm all for that. I don't have a problem for you to use the siding. I don't have a problem for you to use wood columns, nor I don't have a problem using plastered columns. But All I'm saying is be consistent. Make sure that the project is consistent. I'm not a type of a person who like the projects that have these extra, it's not a Christmas tree to ornate the entire house. It's a house that has, you have these functions. You have windows, you have doors, you have walls, and so those can be detailed differently, and but be consistent. That's all I'm saying. And I don't have a problem with that comment. I'm sure you guys can kind of take that to the next level. I don't have a problem of letting go and you guys handle it, because I know that. But just simply, to me, honestly, I think if you remove the siding and remove the trims around and then just push the window in and have a better quality window, I'm completely okay with the project. That's all I'm asking. And I think, because there's nothing else you can do with this project. I mean, unless you start removing certain functions inside the building to be able to create these articulations and create these balconies and create these little areas, I think we just have to kind of realize that this is going to be just a box and treat it as a box. That's
my recommendation would actually be a little different. I think that they should actually not fight the style that it is. It has strong craftsman bones. It has strong craftsman neighbors. And I think that they've gone along, that they have made an effort to move towards that. Clearly, they like that. They've looked around. They like the siding. They've picked a really beautiful craftsman-style front door. And I think that they can go in that direction. But I also appreciate the point that Mr. Malekian makes, that whatever details they use should feel organic and not planted on, that they should be carried out throughout the building, so that the consistency is brought to all of the different sides of the building. And of course, it'll be simpler as it moves back, but to be sure that if they do things like that division between the floors, that it actually has a reason to exist. And I know you know what I mean, Stephanie. So I would not encourage them to remove the siding, because I actually think that it does refer to other houses that are on the block that have similar siding. And I think that it's a nice detail to have, and a house that very much is lacking in detail right now. My big concern remains the windows. I just think the wrong windows on this house would really cheapen it in the way it looks. So if you're going to put some money into it, you're going to get the return, because you can tell by when you drove around, I'm sure you could really see those houses where you just feel bad that they put those windows on.
Do we want to, if I can't make a motion, so you guys.
I'm comfortable. I think staff has the direction. I think that they
I think there's two directions, and if you pick one and you be consistent to it. So
Right.
you're either going to do a Spanish very simple, or you'll do craftsman with the painted wood details. So are we comfortable with that?
You guys make the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with the following conditions. Whatever language you want to use for the windows, to be sure that they're of a high quality that's consistent with what that shows in architecture. I would say that one board preference is to pick a style and be consistent with that style, to be sure that all of the detailing feels organic to the house and not plant on or strictly for the sake of ornamentation. To consider using the craftsman bones of the house as your inspiration, and the craftsman houses on the block for ideas. What else? To consider replacing the columns in the rear with the similar wood as to the front entryway. To consider removing that, I don't even know what you call it, the wood between the two floors.
Band.
I think it's called the rail, the wood rail at the floor line.
Band, if you want.
The banding.
The band.
Is there anything, any other?
Little thing, the front window needs to be a casement XOX, not a single hung. In honor of its past life.
I would also just leave a consideration to restore the windows, the front windows. It's just a consideration, so that you have the ability to if you decide to.
The colors might alternator change depending on the style too, so you might want to make a note about.
Just make a consideration to bring a color in, because you don't have any color. So it's going to be a beige box.
This is, I just,
I don't count white and black as color, so, I mean a color. That's just a consideration. That's something for you later.
Let's put it this way. You guys are going to be done with us. Now you're going to have to
Now you
deal
get
with
to
the
deal
city,
with
so you're going to deal with them.
Now you just
We'll
have
see
one.
which one was easier.
So there's a motion?
There was a motion. I think Stephanie might have
seconded
typed
that,
quicker than I can write, so I will rely on her typed conditions.
there was that one that we're going to include from your recommendation in there that you mentioned before. What was that?
Which one was that one?
It was in the staff recommendation approval. You mentioned at the beginning.
Oh, yes. About the antenna, I think, or
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that.
They've removed that.
Well,
Right,
we'll
but it's
keep
still-
that comment, even though
So
they
you put-
mentioned
included in
that
that, yeah.
they had already.
I would actually keep all 4 of your recommendations as conditions.
Okay.
If they're, the wood sills and trim, if they stay with the craftsman style, that would stay as a condition. If somehow it changes to a different style, you may consider bringing it back to us at that point, because that sounds like a pretty radical change. But assuming that it stays pretty much the way it is, I would keep that as a condition. Does that make sense? Okay.
Motion, please.
That was a motion. Seconded. Where's the second?
There was a motion by Board Member Friedman, and that was a second by Board Member Garagos to approve the project with the conditions. Board Member Friedman,
Yes?
Board Member Garagos,
Yes.
Chairperson Malikian.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
We have one set of minutes to approve
Yes.
today, December 11th, 2008.
Went through it. Everything is okay with me.
Yeah, that's fine. Make a motion to approve the minutes from, what was it, December 11th?
Is it December 11th? Yes.
December 11th?
Okay, second.
Second?
Okay, a motion was made to approve the minutes. This will be a roll call. Mr. Garagos?
Yes.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Mr. Malikian?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. Thank
Okay.
you. We have no staff business or discussion items.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. We're adjourned.